Good morning. Morning? I may as well say good morning because it's practically almost morning where Ashley is. Or just after, is it?
It's 2 p.m. here.
There you go. There you go. See, this is how much the heat is getting to us here in England. I look like how, with being redhead, I'm surviving. I really don't know. But then
86 degrees, isn't it? Like Fahrenheit for me, isn't it like 30 degrees Celsius over there?
Oh, it's hotter than 30, isn't it? Like
I think it's risen to about 33, 34.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so it's like 90-ish degrees. That's a beautiful temperature.
Oh, shut up.
No.
Anyway, this is a trigger warning, so please do not swear. No, that's not going to happen. But it is a trigger warning. So please do share, like, subscribe, all the gist. So tonight we're going to be discussing when parenthood changes your identity. And I think, for one, it definitely changes all three of ours. Do you not think?
Of course.
On a personal and professional level. So I've done something different. Now, normally I just have a whole shitload of questions, but I've actually spaced it out. So I've got some for you, Ashley, and I've got some for Nick. So there you go. And you've probably got some for me. I don't know.
I mean, I haven't put any together, but I certainly can.
Please don't.
Why? Why?
No, I don't mind. I don't mind. You can throw whatever you want at me. You always do.
I do. Okay.
Exactly.
Fire
So,
away.
we're going to kickstart with Ashley because I like to do ladies first.
Uh-huh.
So, when you first became a parent, what did you expect parenthood to be like?
Well, at this point, I was already a stay-at-home mom because we had become foster parents. So it was probably the idea of I'm going to get to snuggle on the couch and sleep when the baby sleeps and do some housework. And other than that, that's about all I'm going to do. I'm just going to soak it in and snuggle and do all the things. Yeah, no.
It's not
That's
No.
not how.
So what was your expectations then before you even had a single child in your life? Because obviously we always get told it's easy being a parent. It's gifted. You get to sleep. Do you fuck?
Expectations before I had kids? Honestly, I can't necessarily say that before I became a parent, that I really had any. And maybe I did, and I just can't remember because, I mean, my oldest is gonna be 16 in a few months.
Gray hairs, then.
Oh, I got lots of gray hairs in here.
So do I.
That's my crown of wisdom, Adam.
Of course it is.
But, like, I think for me, too, I've always been, like, I was always babysitting as a teenager and even, I think, honestly, before I was a teen back then. And then helping, like, my mom with my brothers because I was already in high school when they came along. So I was older, and it was one of those things, like, you change the diapers, you feed the baby, like, put the baby down for a nap. So it really, I don't know that I necessarily had the expectations of my own kids. Like, it was just something that you do.
Okay. So I'll come back to you. So, Nick,
Yes.
Looking back, what was your idea of being a parent before you had a child? So what was the idea look like? But similar question, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I did know it would be a great responsibility, and I take responsibility very seriously. I mean, I guess I knew to an extent, it's big changes were going to take place in my life, but you never really know till you have a child how it'll impact you, mentally as well as practically. And I guess I had friends who had 2 or 3 children before I had my first, and sometimes I think you don't see the reality. You see them at certain points and you say, oh look, they've got 3 kids, and they're managing it, and they seem to be, but nothing really prepares you until you suddenly have your own, and then obviously everything changes and the reality sinks in. Which, I mean, all good. I'm not, it's the best thing that ever happened to me having my son. But I think I think I knew that my priorities were going to shift. Whereas before I had a child, my priority was basically myself and my partner. There wasn't. I didn't have to look after anyone else, or my responsibilities are quite limited. So, but that all changes. Your whole priorities and responsibilities are all really about the welfare and happiness of your child. So.
Yeah. So, Ashley, going back to you then, do you feel like you was prepared for how much your life would change?
No, not necessarily.
Tough questions here.
Well, I'm just trying to think back, honestly, but no, I don't.
It wasn't that long ago.
Because, for me, especially when I think of that first pregnancy, that I think in and of itself took a very emotional toll on me because I was so incredibly sick. I had lost 20 pounds. And it was one of those things that it was just the exhaustion. And I'd love to be able to cook my family dinner, but there's no way I can. So it's like you feel guilty, you feel lazy, you feel incapable of doing certain things because of the nature of morning sickness, especially not every woman experiences that, but nobody could prepare me for the awfulness of that, if you will. So I don't think that there was any, again, preparedness to deal with that and what that would look like and how that would affect the first however many months of my pregnancy. I don't even know. It was at least 4 or 5. So it's brutal. It really, really is. And then not being able to attend certain family functions, or if you do, you're pretty much on the couch and you need to know where the bathroom is and every exit known to man. You need to have a plan. So yeah, it becomes a lot of isolation and a lot of loneliness.
See, because you took me back to when Kerry was pregnant with our daughter, and she never had the symptoms straight away. It was me that had them, like strong pains, vomiting a lot. Like I couldn't even cook without vomiting, and obviously she had a family around. And then when I told her I can't cook this, I can't eat this, and she was like, "Why?" And I didn't even answer because I just ran upstairs and threw up. And she's like, "What? Are you all right? What's going on?" And I'm like, "You need to take a test, and you need to take a test now." And so she said, "Right, I'll do it in a couple of days." So she did, and there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, I can remember one night, honestly, and I don't want to go into the gory details, but like my husband and I, we didn't have a TV for a very long time. So if we wanted to watch TV, it was on a computer monitor.
Okay.
And I think at that time, it might have been like Netflix used to do the discs.
Yeah.
So it might have even been like a DVD on the computer, some sort of whatever streaming service we could get at that time. And I think we were watching a movie and all of a sudden like bucket and he's holding my hair and I'm just like absolutely miserable. That's the only time my husband ever held my hair, when I threw up. But like it would just come out of nowhere, and how they say, oh, well, it's morning sickness. Bullshit. If it's morning sickness, it's all day, friends. It's all day.
It is.
Eggs were the worst thing for me to cook. I was like, these smell like wet dog. And still to this day, like I'll cook eggs, but I'm just like, oh, they stink so bad.
See, the thing is, in one of our houses, like every time I cooked, I always had the back door open. Always did.
Really?
And literally 2 or 3 houses down, we had a friend that obviously was pregnant as well, and she knew when I was cooking bacon. She knew. And she's like, Adam! Like, I couldn't see her, but I could hear her. She's like, Adam, stop it! I'm like, nope.
That's the thing. Like, your senses become so heightened. It's terrible. Like, to this day, there is a certain soap that I don't think you guys have Bath and Body Works over.
We do.
Do you?
Yeah.
But around, and I used to love this soap. It was like around Christmas time. It was like a candy apple, something or another. Yeah. And I had that soap while I was pregnant and going through morning sickness. It triggers me even to this day. I'm like that soap stinks. I cannot smell it. Nothing, because it would be like in my nose when I would be sick, or if I'd use it on my hands, it would make me throw up, like all the things. So to this day, there are just still certain things that I'm like, no way, I can't. I won't get sick, but it just triggers me into that thought, and the smell. No.
So let's turn to stereotypes when it comes to parenthood, because there's a lot of them out there. So, Nick, do you ever feel pressured to basically just get on with it as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of this wider thing of, you know, we there's no training for a parent, but we feel, you know, we should know what to do, or, you know, expectation but it's doing something which is completely new. You know, on your first child, I mean, is look, you know, the whole looking after someone in all those different levels and every, you know, it is a completely, you know, uncomparable experience. When I had Noah, something made me sort of realize how, you know, how precious a child is, because when we had Noah, and then within a sort of a day or so, you know, less complications to get out of hospital. So, you know, while my partner at the time was resting, I was, you know, walking around the hospital, showing Noah off and be proud. And then within barely a day, we were leaving the hospital. And we had Noah in a little cot, and we had our stuff and saying goodbye to the nurses. And I said almost casually, like I said, are his lips supposed to be that, like, are they supposed to be blue? And he'd stopped breathing, and we're literally about to leave. We would have walked out and carried him, taxi gone home, and he'd stopped breathing. And when I said that, they pressed the button, and, like, you know, suddenly, you know, nurses and doctors whipped him off, and you know, he went on life support. And obviously, you know, for 3 weeks, I was running on my lunch break, you know, get up at 2 a.m. to go and sit by his cot before I ran back to work, ran on my lunch break, ran after work, until obviously got better, made a full recovery. but I think it's one of those things where that makes you realise that this is whatever your priorities in life, whatever you're looking after a life here, and that you can't really be prepared for that. And even if you do sort of parenting courses or parenting, you can do parenting courses, in the UK. It can't prepare you, can it? I think the only thing to prepare you is I suppose being like, well, I'm going to take this responsibility.
Being in the moment, yeah.
I'm going to do whatever's needed, But
you
can't.
Yeah, because obviously when Kerry told me she was pregnant with our eldest, I didn't know how to hold a child. I didn't even know you had to sterilize bottles.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know how to change a nappy, or as you call them, diapers. I didn't know fuck all. But now I'm doing it left, right, and centre.
Yeah, it's a learning. I think it's the sharpest learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I grew up and I weren't around kids. I wasn't. So I didn't know what to do.
Do you have siblings? You don't.
Yeah,
you do.
Too many of them.
Okay.
I don't know how many.
It's I don't know how you can. So what I mean, so for you, Adam, how do you how do you think becoming or say what surprised you most about emotional challenges of parenting? Was there something that was anything that surprised you? When you had your children,
Well, it wasn't a joint decision between me and Kerry to actually have children in the first place. Like, we were both working at the time, and we were choosing: do we get married or do we have kids?
Right.
And we were like it for a couple of days. So like, right, you know what? Let's just flip a coin. Whatever it comes back, we do that. And you know what? We still do that today. Just flip a coin.
Sure.
So ended up we're having kids, and then when all throughout the pregnancy, I was an arsehole. I used fear because I was scared shitless, and I just went out and drank. And left Kerry to deal with it on her own. Little did I know she was scared as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I did that with our first two. I just drank through it all,
right.
And I did support her one bit. But with this young one, yeah, I was there. I was literally arguing with the NHS because they were forever booking appointments for her. Telling her where to do what to do, when to do it, and I actually rang up on several occasions saying, "Hang on a minute, last time I checked, I didn't get the NHS pregnant. I got Kerry pregnant. So this is our pregnancy, and you need to start asking if she's actually available before you just assume she's available."
So your experiences of your most recent is completely different.
Completely different.
I suppose sort of going on the sort of with the mental health. How do you carry on being a parent on
I would say whether I'm struggling or not, just live in the moment. Live in the moment, because I know a part of our two eldest, they don't like me. They hate me because they see me more of a dad to our young one than I ever was to them. And I'm making more time for them.
Sure.
Like, I sit with my daughter on a daily basis, just talking to her. And if someone else comes involved, I tell them to leave. And then it's like I'm treating them equally. But at the same time, I just want just us time.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. So I'm doing a lot of making up. Like for example, with Kerry, like I'm booking all these places to go with her. And she didn't know why. She thought I just wanted just to do it, spend time with her. But I'm not, no, because I'm doing it to make up for everything I've done.
Sure.
That's what I'm doing it for. Yeah.
I wonder whether, because this is something I find my own, son is obviously I try to hide my stresses, from him because he's only 10 and yeah. Any sort of mental health struggles I might be going through, I don't want to put that on him. But I guess, to an extent, he senses, if I'm stressed or something, and he does ask, are you all right, Dad? So I guess there's a thing of really how much as parents should we,
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's trying to not overstep those boundaries, but at the same time, you need to protect them. Yeah, we're currently doing that at the minute because there's just a lot of influencers out there, like obviously people that identifying as, I don't want to go too much into it because I've got a lot of views on it, identifying as whatever it is, and we're trying to get the kids to listen. Like, we had a big bust up with our eldest about it, and it's like, let's have a break. You go to your grandparents for a little bit, come back, and we'll sit and talk. We'll listen to you, you listen to us, and it's been going all right so far.
So do you think, I don't know what you think about is actually with, communication, like fostering a good relationship as a parent with your children.
Yeah,
being open, communicate.
We are very open in conversation in this house, to a degree, as far as like what's age appropriate for the kids.
Of course.
But I just had a conversation yesterday with my 15-and-a-half-year-old. We have a friend that's going through some stuff with their kiddo, and I had said to him, I was like, in the end, because he was listening to something with me, and I told him, I said, this is where integrity comes into play.
Right.
And why we're teaching you to be a person of your word. If you want me to be able to trust you to take driver's ed, to be able to get your driver's license, and to do all of that, I need to know that when I request of you something here at home, that you're going to fulfill that request. Because if you're not going to do that, then I'm not going to trust you to get behind the wheel of a vehicle that could kill somebody. We're not going to do that. So I said, I need to know that you are a person of your word, that you are going to have integrity, and you are going to be counted upon, not this push back and forth of, well, it's not mine, or I already did it, or somebody else can do it, and pushing that responsibility off, because that shows me you're not ready to have your license. And I said, quite honestly, I don't give two shits if you're 18 when you get it. Not my problem.
Sure.
Because I need to know that you are a person of integrity. But we have those open dialogue conversations of, like if my husband and I are going to talk finances, like the kids may not be pulled into the conversation, but I'm not going to hide it behind closed doors. If we're going to talk about, something else going on, again, I'm not going to hide it behind closed doors. I'm going to have that open dialogue and that open conversation, again, if it's age appropriate. So it really just kind of, depends. But I don't hide from them if, I'm going into like an overwhelm moment or whatever. Yesterday was very much there, and one of the kiddos asked me for something, and I was like, for the love of, if somebody else asks me for something, I'm gonna lose it. What do you want?
You've not already lost it yet.
Yesterday was real close. It was very overwhelming yesterday, but I made it through, and I did some journaling and stuff on it, but I was able to process through. But I mean, there have been times where, as a mom, where my husband and I have gotten into a huge argument when I've been gone, and then I come back and I literally flip out at the kids because I'm like, what the hell happened while I was gone? And then I completely lost it. I had an emotional breakdown. I did the ugly crying. I locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed. And then at that time, I think he was like 14. He came, he made me a cup of coffee, and he knocked on the door. And he was like, "You're not a bad mom. You're a really good mom." And like, that made me cry even more, you know, because it's like I had that bad moment, you know, and I've also learned when I have to apologize, you know, when I have crossed the line, when I have acted irrationally or said things I shouldn't have to them. Like, there has been apology. And I think displaying that to our children versus hiding it is a huge game changer for them to realize, like, they mess up too. They're human too. Like, they're not perfect, and it's okay.
It's I had this funny one in with my son Noah, when he'd come and stay, and I'd have him for a week, say, and a half term, and we'd have a great week together. And then the last sort of day before he's coming towards the end, he'd like play up, and he'd be really almost like be a bit naughty, a bit rude, and I can understand that. I'd like and I'd like, what, you know, I'd tell him off, why are you misbehaving, why are you rude? And basically I figured out that he was, because it was coming to the end of his time with me, he was struggling to process. He didn't have, you know, the emotion of like, you know, going back to his mother, which he was looking forward to, but leaving me, who he only, you know, to spend a lovely week with, and it took me a few like holidays, you know, before that, you know, I worked it out, and obviously now I know, you know, that, and I recognise, you know, the signs. If he starts, you know, being a bit naughty, playing up, it's actually because it's not, you know, it's the opposite of what you think it is. Actually struggling emotionally to you know, to work it out. But it's funny, isn't it? You know, like, so
it is.
With that, you know, I was trying to, you know, I've tried to have a conversation and say, well, you know, same as adults, you know, you need to talk about it, you know, in your own way, you know, rather than trying to get it as a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, try and get it through his head as a, you know, work it out, talk to someone, talk to me, you know. So it's a similar thing, you know, for adults, you know, we need to communicate, chat to someone, find someone we share it with. It's the same with children, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ashley, I'm glad you both brought this up. So Ashley, when did you first notice parts of your old self were disappearing?
Oh, I was probably 2 or 3 kids in. Probably on the tail end of my 3rd pregnancy, I would say. That was also the time that my marriage was in a very, very bad place. And I think there was just so many parts of me that then had become so wrapped up in motherhood that my marriage wasn't a priority. Like, it was, but it wasn't, if that makes sense. I wasn't like, there was no time for me. There was no weekends away with just my husband and I. There was no weekend away just for me to recharge. So it was a lot. It was like every bit of me was slowly like just decreasing in the background. I was very exhausted. I was emotionally reactive, because we were also foster parents too at that time. So there was like that added, you know, stress onto it as well. And there was just a lot. Where again, like, what was rest? I was so emotionally exhausted. I was physically exhausted. I was physically touched out, like, just leave me alone. I was just very disconnected. And sometimes it felt very much like you go kind of into those like daze moments where everything just kind of all of a sudden turns very hazy, and you're just like sitting on the couch looking at your life like, is this it? Is this all there is? Yeah. You know, and you just all of a sudden, it's like an out of body experience almost. It's weird. But you just go into that like dazed and confused area.
So Nick, did you ever feel guilty for wanting time for yourself?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think definitely that when I had Noah, my free time completely evaporated, and it's harder to have time to myself or to try and see friends, priorities wise, and the focus is obviously about the child, your son, your daughter, your kids, and it should be, but we feel like we've lost a bit of identity. We feel we're like we're not perhaps doing what we used to do, want to do, or seeing our friends as much as we used to. And every conversation you have is about your children or your baby, and I guess I'm sure a lot of people do. You feel guilty for like wanting to go out and have just your friends and not your partner and your baby, and you want to I think definitely I certainly felt that. Yeah, of course.
So Ashley, you keep talking about identity in this podcast, so I'm going to throw you under the bus here. Who were you before becoming a parent? Here we go.
I mean, there's still parts of me that are still very, very unfiltered.
Please share.
I would say, I mean, I think some of those parts have returned, if you will. But before being a parent, it was more of that that outgoing. I was kind of a party girl, especially in my high school days before becoming a parent. And it was attention seeking in all of the wrong places. Let's just leave it at that. And then I met my husband. We are high school sweethearts. And that changed a lot, but I was still very outspoken, very like loud, and that emotional charge, which I can still very much have if I need to pull it out. Don't get on my bad side. But now it's turned more into that like confidence and that boldness and knowing who I am. Whereas before it was more like I'm going to play small and I'm going to maybe appease and people please others because I don't want to ruffle feathers. But you get me around friends and that's a totally different story, right? So my personality would come out where it needed to come out. And I think when I became a parent, it turned more into like an isolation, not necessarily because that's what I was wanting, but more so because the priorities had changed. I've got a foster child at that time and then a newborn baby and taking on other foster kids for weekends or while other foster families are on vacation or whatever it was. So the responsibilities had changed. We were business owners before we became kids or before we had kids. And it was like we were traveling and we were exploring the United States and going places and having fun and all of that. And then again, when kids came along, all of that stopped.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that we didn't want to travel, but again, your priorities shift, income changes, right? And the pressures of, oh my gosh, we got to make sure that we've got diapers. Like, I was nursing, so I didn't have to worry about formula, but it was still like making sure that we've got, all of these things in the house. We've got more mouths to feed. It isn't just us and a baby. Like, so those pressures squashed, I think, some of that boldness and that confidence and that outgoing personality, because then my focus had shifted.
Yeah. Okay. So, Nick, what expectations did you put on yourself that became unrealistic? I love this topic.
I want that question. Just kidding, Nick.
Well,
I can give it you as well.
No.
I mean, I think for me, I mean, my father who passed away last weekend. When he left my my mother when I was quite young, I had a bit of a difficult relationship with him, and he ended up moving abroad. So I think for me, when I had my first son, I mean, I didn't want to. I want to be a better father than my father was. I was determined, to be everything he wasn't. But I think in my mind, yeah, I mean, I suppose you want to be the best you can. I want to be the best I could be. I wanted to be the perfect father, and definitely the intention was there. But I think it's what's you've got to balance out what's what is realistic in the sense that it's hard it's hard being a parent, and you're only human, and we all have our own different pressures and of life. So but and I think that we when we think being wanting to be the perfect father, we forget that actually we've got pressures of work and money and things as well. So it doesn't matter how it's not just about being the best parent, the best perfect father or mother. You've also got to cope with all this other stuff that's coming in. You can't. It's not just in a vacuum. And I think that was the thing I forgot. I didn't forgot is the right word, but I think that's what I found hard. Is I think I'd naturally been a good father because I'm so determined not to be my own father. But actually, it's all these these incoming pressures of that we have in life of relationship with our partner, money and work, and those actually they creep in and they make it sometimes make it harder to focus on parenthood, and give all your time and energy to that. So I think that's what.
Yeah. So Ashley, have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a different person? That's a yes then. I'm giving you the funny ones here, aren't
I? Yes. That I think has happened more times than I could probably count. Especially as a mom, when you're wondering when's the last time I took a shower? When's the last time I changed out of these clothes? Like, did I put deodorant on today? Did I brush my teeth? Like, any of those sorts of things, especially when you're walking like a zombie in sleep deprivation. That's rough. I think it also came when after I was sick, and then I started losing my hair, and that was really mentally tough for me. Because I mean, I've got a lot, and when I can start seeing my scalp and all the things, I couldn't put my hair in a ponytail anymore because you could just see bald patches. That was rough for me. And it was like, who am I? Who am I without my hair? I had attached myself so much, my outward appearance to my hair. And it's crazy to think, but it's a real thing. And I felt very less than because it was literally coming out in clumps. And
I know I'm going bald.
And it's rough. It really is. And I was to the point of shaving my head again. I had shaved it a long time ago when our daughter was a baby.
I saw the post.
Yeah. And that was obviously intentional. So I know I can manage it, right? And it's really easy to manage. The grow out is terrible. I'm just being honest there. But we often attach our identity to our outward appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's been a lot of those moments.
So Nick, how did your relationship with your partner change?
Well, I think there were, I think, there were pressures about, I suppose trying to support each other, and there can be times where there were times when it's like where we had discussions, disagreements. Was we giving our contributed equally, and different levels, time, energy, money. Were we, and different. When one wanted to go out and that was important, and the other need. This. I mean, I think it's very hard. The idea of parents being equal and equally looking after the child. Well, the reality is that's never going to 100% happen because of work and different commitments and different things. It's finding what works for each couple. And I think definitely it was challenging. I think for me as well. I think when Noah was sort of born, I'd made redundant, so I was looking for work and doing a bit of freelance work at the time. So I was looking after bringing Noah up and taking the nursery and classes and things, and my partner at the time was working in a full-time, in a quite well-paid job, but and I guess she, there's a bit of resentment, but she wanted to spend more time with him, and it did cause some, and obviously I was looking for work, and I was very lucky because I got to spend more time with my son when he was a baby growing up. But I think it was circumstances that created that. But it's things like that can test a relationship, isn't it? Because
it really can, yeah. I identify with that because obviously with our young one struggling to sleep, even still, 3 years later, when I'm trying to spend time with Kerry at night time, even if it's for about an hour, I'm falling asleep. I'm actually falling asleep. And it's very awkward.
Yeah.
It's very awkward. So, especially with someone that doesn't drink coffee anymore.
You don't drink coffee anymore.
What's that?
You don't drink coffee anymore.
No.
No,
I haven't for a number of years.
Yeah, no, I do remember you saying.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Oh, shut up. I'll stick to my water. My lemon and lime water.
I have beet and pomegranate juice. And I also have my water. I just got off of a 3-day liquid fast again.
Wow. No, I'm introducing.
So, Ashley.
Yes.
What helped you regain confidence? Or I can ask you a different one, a much tougher one.
This one, no, that's okay.
I'm going to ask it you anyway.
For me, it was being willing to step outside of my comfort zone. So after I was sick, I then decided to join a direct sales company. And from there, my personal development journey began again. As I said earlier, we were business owners before we were parents. So I was doing a ton of personal development. I was going to conferences. I was soaking in what it looks like to be a business leader and a good wife and all of those types of things. And again, when we became parents, all of that set aside.
Yeah.
I just stopped. I wasn't reading anymore. I wasn't doing those. I mean, and if I did read, it was very sporadic. But then joining the direct sales company where I had women that were pouring into me, that were believing in me and doing those personal development things again, going to conferences and really soaking all of that in and getting around like-minded women and positive women. And then from there, I started working with a mindset coach. It was more in a group capacity. And then from there, I started working with a business coach. And she was teaching me how to be on camera, how to sound confident when you speak, talking about all things you can imagine business, right? But it became this lifelong, because there's a lot of my life left and I'm not going to stop, but this lifelong journey of getting back into personal development and reading books. And just because I'm a coach, I work with coaches. So the coach gets coached. If I am having off days, I have coaches that I can go to and I can bounce ideas off of, or they can challenge my thinking, which then allows me to bring that back to my clients, because it's this changing. And if I would not have stepped out and said yes to going into the direct sales industry, I'd still be operating the same way I was back then. Yeah. I'd still be operating from the small, what I feel like voiceless, even though I did have a voice, but it was that tiny, like, who are you to speak out? Who are you to say what you need? Like, and be bold and not ask for permission, right? Because there was a lot of permission asking then. And over time, as I've developed that muscle of no longer asking for permission, but creating my space and my reality, a lot has shifted and changed. And now I have that confidence and that boldness to coach a client or to speak on a stage or go live on Facebook. Like, so many people are like, I could never do that. Like, that's terrifying, you know? Yeah. So it's finding that voice to be able to do it when you know who you are.
Okay. So I'm going to ask, and before I go to you, Nick, I'm just going to ask people in the comments a question. What part of your old self do you miss? That's what I'm going to ask. What part of your old self do you miss? So, Nick, to you, what lessons have you learned from the difficult times?
I think, I think the difficult times, test our test our resilience, and I think I test our self-belief, and I think, there will always be difficult times where it's in, parenting, setting or other, and I think it's having that. Knowing you've got intention, but whatever you do it for the right reasons. Because we all make you look. I think we've got that moments we look back and say, maybe I made a mistake. We could have done something better, shall I say? But we don't. In the moment, I think as long as we're doing what we think is the right decision, we're doing it with the best intention. Then that's the main thing, the most important thing, and. I think for me that's something that resonates. That it's having that sort of self-belief, that confidence that everything you approach, you have it the best intention in mind. To do your best, and you always consider the other people in the situation, and your intention is a really sort of well meant one. I think that's so important for me. That's a lesson I've learned, is because, it's easy to look at things and situations or things that happened and have a little voice, have a little bit of doubt and maybe lose your confidence a bit and think, oh, why did I do that? Maybe if I'd done that, it would be different. But I think for me, the lesson I've learned is, intention is really important. Having the right intention and.
Oh. Where'd he go? He vanished.
I actually have a few questions for him as well for the end.
Okay. So apparently Wyatt is having a rough evening, so I get to finish us up. Okay, so let's do this closing question, if you will. And maybe drop our listeners just a tiny bit of encouragement. So if you could encourage a new parent with one piece of advice, what would it be?
This is me, Ashley?
Yep, that's for
Yes.
you.
Yes, no, of course. One bit of advice. I think it is like we say so often to an extent. It's talk to people if you're struggling. I think with parenting, we find it hard to admit we're struggling. I think there's a this sort of unsaid thing that we shouldn't struggle. It's a natural thing. We should be good at this. We often compare people we know and say, look, other people are doing it. Shouldn't. And we feel a bit ashamed to admit we're struggling with some aspect of being parenting or the impacts of that. So I think it's struggling is struggling in any arena. And, mental health is something we need to prioritize, and we need to put things in place, and it starts with talking. I think parenting is no different. Parenting can massively impact and change your life in so many levels. So I think my bit of advice was, if you are struggling, talk to someone, whether it's another parent or whether it's a health worker, coach, counselor. There's so many people, but definitely do not struggle alone. It's like anything. Parenting's no different.
Yeah. I definitely would concur with that, because the amount of moms that I talk to, and all of a sudden, like, especially when, say, you first enter a new mom group, right? Sure. Or you've been in a mom group for a while, or just parenting group in general, and all of a sudden you start swapping stories with one another. You're like, oh my gosh, are you living in my house? Like, that's my life, right? Because we think so many times that we're the only one dealing with that. We're the only one that's got a kid that, does whatever.
Sure.
Nope. I guarantee you don't. So I would also say, like, don't think that you have to do it all on your own either. And I think that's the biggest misconception, even as a parent, is we feel like we have to do it all alone, or we've got to do everything. If I literally had $1 every time I was asked or told, I don't know how you do it all.
Sure.
I don't. Right. That's the secret. I don't. As my children have gotten older, I've delegated more, and I've included them in doing some household chores, especially as they've gotten older. Now, when they were like little, of course, then at that point you are doing a lot of the things, but at that time too, like I said, we were foster parents. So when we've got foster kids, they've got daily chores and things that they needed to also contribute to the family. So it wasn't that I was the sole one responsible. Now, have there been those explosive moments where I had said, nobody helps me around here as I'm throwing a, pan of greasy bacon, drippings into the sink and flipping out and smashing dishes on the counter and not breaking them, thankfully. But you know what I mean? Where you're like setting things down aggressively because you feel like you're on that island of aloneness. Sure. And nobody's paying attention to it until you turn into the psycho. So I've definitely had those moments. But again, it's realizing that really in reality, it's just not making your needs or your expectations known. So you're expecting people to read your mind when in reality, they can't do that, right? So it's knowing that, again, you don't have to do all the things. That your worth and your value is not measured by how exhausted you are. Like, it's not. So it is in the reach out. It is asking for help. It's finding a supportive group of women or men or whatever the case may be, forming those friendships and building that support network, because it does take a literal village of people to raise a family. Yeah. So I'm just reading the comments here. If your son has a license, you can always send him to the store to buy feminine products. My mother did. Not that it bothered me, but some young guys might find it embarrassing. Oh, yeah. That I know the first thing my mom did when I was old enough to drive and old enough to buy them, of course, that's the other thing, was to buy her a pack of cigarettes. That was the first thing that I was, instructed to buy when I was old enough. Now they've moved the age in the United States to 21 for cigarettes. So you can't buy stuff like that at 18 anymore. But yeah. Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up. I've got another meeting to jump into. This was a great call. Adam is going to come back with what our topic is for July. It's going to be something as far as summer and mental health, and we're brainstorming that yet. But next week, we will be back. And yeah, that's about all we got for today. So we'll see you guys later. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. And we'll see you again next week.
See you again next week. Great. Thanks, Ashley. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.